While Western politicians and diplomats continue to speculate about freezing the conflict in Ukraine or hoping for new peace negotiations, a chilling reality check has just been delivered on NATO's eastern flank. A battle-hardened Ukrainian general, a man who has spent years fighting the Russian war machine, has just finished a critical inspection of Latvia's defences. His verdict is something every European citizen needs to hear. While the bureaucratic paperwork is underway, the reality on the ground is alarming. He did not just talk about tanks, fighter jets, or drone warfare. He talked about blood banks, insulin supplies, and a controversial concept that terrifies invading armies: total defense. Today, we are breaking down General Serhiy Krivonos' urgent warning to the Baltic states and the wider NATO alliance. We need to explore why he believes Europe is still asleep at the wheel, and what the literal survival checklist is that he says every nation bordering Russia needs to implement yesterday. To understand the urgency of this message, you have to understand the messenger. Major General Serhiy Krivonos is the former Deputy Secretary of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council. He is not a theorist sitting in a comfortable office. He is a practitioner of modern warfare, fighting against a numerically superior force. He recently appeared on Latvian television alongside military experts to discuss his assessment of Latvia's readiness. Latvia, a NATO member since 2004, is often seen as the alliance's tripwire. If Russia moves against NATO, experts agree it would likely start in the Baltics. General Krivonos' visit was not a courtesy call. It was an audit of civil and military cooperation. His findings serve as a proxy for the preparedness of many European nations that have enjoyed decades of peace. The first major takeaway from General Krivonos is a complete rejection of the current Western hope for a negotiated freeze to the war. In his assessment, he remains extremely pessimistic about the war ending anytime soon. Why? Because from the Ukrainian perspective, looking at the battlefield realities, Vladimir Putin shows absolutely no intention of stopping. External research backs this up. Russia has fundamentally restructured its economy for a long war, pumping massive percentage points of its gross domestic product into defense production. Krivonos argues that talk of freezing the front lines is naive. As he put it, if the Russians keep shooting, you cannot simply choose not to shoot back. A freeze requires both sides to want it, and currently, Moscow believes it can outlast Western resolve. The general's warning is clear. Hope is not a strategy. Preparing for a long, grinding conflict is the only realistic option. This brings us to the most controversial and critical part of his assessment: the reliance on NATO. In the Baltic states and across much of Europe, the mantra has long been that we are in NATO, so we are safe. Article 5 is viewed as an impenetrable shield. General Krivonos challenged this complacency head-on. He posed a difficult question. Are NATO societies, not just their armies, but their economies and their populations, genuinely psychologically ready to fight a high-intensity war? He delivered a sobering aphorism that should be printed in every defense ministry. On the battlefield, the level of your fantasies falls to the level of your training. If a conflict erupts, help will not be instantaneous. We know from defense analysis that reinforcing the eastern flank by land could be incredibly difficult in the early stages of a war. So what is the deterrent? Krivonos advocates for a concept of total defense, similar to models seen in Finland and Switzerland. He argued that Russia does not fear a small professional army that it can overwhelm with numbers. What Russia fears is an armed, motivated population. He stated that the ultimate deterrent is when every home in Latvia has a weapon and knows how to use it. He pointed to Latvian volunteers currently fighting in Ukraine, noting they often outperform elite Western units because they have a genetic memory of fighting this specific enemy for survival. His message to Europe is blunt. You cannot outsource your will to fight. But total defense is not just about rifles in closets. The most chilling part of General Krivonos' assessment was his focus on civilian infrastructure, the unsexy, terrifying logistics of national survival. He noted that while Latvia has started the process of improving defense since his last visit over a year ago, the practical filling of that framework is missing. He offered a specific non-military checklist that every frontline country needs to be able to answer yes to right now. Point 1. Trauma capacity. Can your local hospitals handle hundreds of complex shrapnel and gunshot wounds at the same time, every single day? Point 2. The blood supply. Are there massive, decentralized reserves of blood in hospitals, ready for a mass casualty event? Point 3 is the pharmacy chain. If supply chains from Western Europe break down, are pharmacies stocked with months' worth of critical medication for chronic illnesses? He specifically mentioned insulin. In a war, diabetics die not from bullets, but from supply chain failure. And finally, point 4, shelter and power. Are there reliable bomb shelters for the urban population? And are there sufficient backup power sources when the grid is inevitably targeted? This is where many European nations fail the test. Since the end of the Cold War, civil defense infrastructure across the continent has been allowed to rot. General Krivonos is warning that in modern warfare, the civilian rear is the front line, and civil defense cannot be an afterthought. General Krivonos' assessment is a splash of cold water. It forces a move away from high-level geopolitical theorizing and down to the gritty reality of national resilience. Ukraine has learned these lessons in blood. They are trying to pass that knowledge on before it is too late for others. The question is not just whether NATO's armies are ready for war, it is whether NATO's societies are ready for the reality of what that war entails. What do you think about the concept of total defense? Is the idea of a weapon in every home a necessary deterrent in modern Europe, or a dangerous escalation? And looking at your own local community, how would it score on this survival checklist? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.